why am I sitting here now dissecting our intro? I was like, what's he there? What's she doing? Oh, I like that one. That one looks like they're writing. What's going on here? Like, why am I now dissecting?
The perfectionist wants it better. Gotta analyze every little thing.
I need help. Hello, guys. Welcome to Small Town World. There was an intro, JC. Did you not see it? It played.
Yeah.
I saw it. I have it on my TV.
I saw it.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Interesting.
Really?
Guys, like other people in the chat, let us know. Did you guys see it? Because
did you guys see the intro?
Esther said she didn't see it either.
That's so bizarre.
It was just, and Renee said she didn't see it. No, Alice didn't either. Is this StreamYard?
Okay.
Is this StreamYard? Because if you notice, we lost our pretty background because of
StreamYard. So that's what it means when they say you can't play intros anymore.
Because I played it. It like we saw it.
Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna play it again. Let me know if you guys see it now, because I really want to know.
Okay. Yes, we're curious. Okay, now they see it.
Yeah. Do you think now that we're having StreamYard issues, I have to like go live and then click it?
I think so.
To clicking it and then going live?
I have a feeling it's not going to let you do it as an intro. So you might have to. Sorry, we're workshopping this right now. Have everybody pop everybody off.
Welcome to the behind the scenes.
So I'm thinking we pop everybody off. You hit go live, so it's a black background, right?
Okay.
So we're all down, and everybody, even you,
everybody's down, and it's just a screen, right?
And then hit the go live, and then play the video. That might be the new way.
Because now I also want to go ahead. I want to go back and look at Thursday, because Thursday should have been the same thing with PJs and Scribbles. And now I'm questioning, did people see it then? Or stay tuned, guys. There might be all kinds of stuff happening behind the scenes.
All right. So everybody who in our chat who's using StreamYard, be aware that this might be the new thing.
This might be a thing. I'm gonna have to go check. But welcome back to Small Town World, that I've apparently been calling the wrong thing all day. Someone reminded me earlier as I was saying it. They're like, "You're on the wrong day, girl." So welcome. We have a very special episode for you guys today. If you don't know, this is our place where as guys say, "Oh, this started and didn't start on my site." We're having some technical issues, guys. We're apparently having technical issues. This is where we get together. We talk about all types of small town things, how to build your small town, how to come up with fictional small towns, all the different things. If you guys ever have any suggestions, always reach out to us for topics and ideas. Drop them in the chat while we're going. And I'm going to let my lovely co-host, Nia, introduce herself. Take it away.
Hi. I'm Nia the Vixen of Fiction all over the internet. I stream here on YouTube. I also stream over on Twitch, so you can catch me here or there. I write from historical fiction to fantasy to sci-fi, and I love the genre blend, paranormal, you name it. I write it. I'm a genre hopper. I do have books out under MV James, but I also write under a pen name, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And we're creating worlds. It's a good time. It's sometimes I do say it's sometimes more fun to actually create the world than it is to write and edit the book.
I don't know. I just had somebody tell me this week, Nia, that they, what did they say? They were like, I really just want you and Nia to create my world and then I just play in it.
You know what? Not gonna lie, that would be like a dream for me.
Right? I was like, where do I sign up for this job?
That might be my career path, because I'm like, this whole editing process is not my jam.
I mean, we are open to this possibility.
Yeah.
And in that vein, you guys are on my channel. TL Russ and Des Lorre are the two names that I write under. I have books under both. Feel free to go check them out. I do have small towns in both of them. And yeah. Okay, sorry, because I'm reading Sky's statement. She's saying when it started on her side, it showed like a speed up 2 seconds intro and then started with Tiffany in mid sentence. So we're having some intro issues. That's all I can say. We're gonna figure that out.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and watch the whole beginning of this one to see what was going on, because
it was looking fine to us back here,
yeah.
But apparently not to everybody. So yes. JC's like, it might be your computer's guy. She's like, thought you were trying something new. No, StreamYard is trying something new. StreamYard is trying it, is what's happening. So if you guys have not turned into Small Town World, we do this a little bit more like a podcast conversation where Nia and I sit and kind of chat and give you guys some information. If you have any questions, put them into the comments, like a Q or a question at the front, so that we know them. We try to save most of them till the end, unless they are something that is relevant to what it is that we're talking about in that present moment. I don't normally pop up a lot of the comments until we get to the question part. But yeah, today we are talking about, because and this really came out of a conversation I think Nia and I had behind the stage, maybe after last month or the month before, where we that you guys think that we have like this fully fleshed out notebook of characters and places and ideas, and like we have pages upon pages of everything, and then we sit down and we start writing our story, and we're like, maybe we need to bust that bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what they think.
Just pop that thing. So what we are doing today is we are kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit and letting you know pretty much how we start and where we start at and what we know when we actually start. Because we're thinking it's so much less than what you guys think it is that we know when we start.
Yeah. And it's funny because we kind of, when we actually start, we're kind of in a similar place. But in the very beginning, that first idea, I think we start a little bit different with the first sparks of the idea. But when we actually start the writing, I think we're kind of in the same place once we actually get the writing started.
I will just make reference to these two comments. Esther does say, Nia may have more info than Tiff, but you both have a page and a half to 2 pages. And that part might be true. We may have a page and a half to 2 pages. And this guy's like, but I like my bubbles. So, Nia,
Mhm.
What's on your 2 pages? And we're going to take a page from Esther. What's on your 2 pages when you first sit down and you're like, I got an idea for a small town. Let's see what happens in order to write this story. What's on your 2 pages?
Okay, so on my 2 pages, I need to know a little bit about the place. So I start imagining the world in my head. What
Mm-hmm.
is this town like? Is it East Coast? Is it West Coast? Is it further up north? Is it further to the south? Is it Midwest? I kind of start getting an idea of what this place is, and it usually with it's what this place is and what is the thing. Like,
Mm.
what is the because I also write sci-fi and fantasy and historical fiction, so there's with those more so than with us with the small town, there's always a thing, like the inciting incident kind of, or the thing that's happened in the past that leads us to where we're at now. So those ideas and thoughts are rambling around up here, and I just start jotting them down. They're not always fully formed, but I'm starting to
Mm-hmm.
jot down because I'm a kind of a world builder first, and then as I have the ideas of what the thing is, I then it sparks. Now, who's going to be affected by this? That's when I get into
Mm-hmm.
I need characters, and this way a myriad of different people are going to be affected a different way by what's happening with this small town. I was going to say fantasy or sci-fi because usually, like, it's the sun's going to explode, or if it's sci-fi, or if
I
it's
don't explode
fantasy.
suns, so
Yeah,
that's all Mia.
hey, it's gonna go whoosh and then poop, and so the people are worried. They need to figure out. So, but in a fantasy, it's whatever evil creature has decided to reel its head and wants to take over the fantasy world. So there's a thing in the world that's happening. And then I'm like, who are the people who are affected? Whether it's the political people, the royalty, the religious people, or the commoners. I and then I start picking out whose story do I want to tell, and that's when I start finding my characters. So similarly, when I do a small town, I've got this world. Maybe there's something going on in the town. Maybe the town is struggling. Maybe the town is just like the happiest town on the planet. And it's like everybody's like, yeah, they're too good to be true here. Whatever it is, maybe a big factories trying to come and take over the town, and it's actually gonna be bad for agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the thing is, I start looking for the people in the town who are now going to be affected, and these are going to be probably the first people that I start whose stories I start telling. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes I start thinking, okay, maybe there's the mayor's daughter, and she's rebellious, and the mayor maybe has some cockamamie ideas about bringing business in, but the daughter is like, no, this is going to be bad for our town, and she's got a rebellious spirit. But then she meets the rich guy who's coming to bring the industry in, and maybe they're fall in love, and she's like, if you do this, it's bad for the so this is how it starts.
Not me over here taking notes, y'all.
I'm like gonna go back
That
and
actually
rewatch
sounds pretty
myself. I'm like,
good.
she's out there, she's protesting, no big business. And the mayor's like, what are you doing?
This is not a story you're working on right now.
I mean, if I do it, don't worry. Let those ideas fly, guys. It's all good. So, and this is literally how it starts for me. So I've got the world, I've got kind of this premise, but here's the thing. From that, if I really wanted to, like if I was really feeling this story, I could just start writing
Mm-hmm.
from that. I write down the notes that I've just like these notes I just came up with. I've got 3 characters so far. I've got the mayor. I've got his rebellious daughter. So that's a little bit about her character. And she's only rebellious to him. She might be perfectly normal to the rest of us. Yeah, I don't
I
want
like that. I like that.
yeah, I don't want industry coming in and polluting our land. We got tons of farms. What is this company? So now I add that to my notes. But now from that I can start writing if I
Mm-hmm.
want to. And what's going to happen is in this first story, I'm building my story Bible. at the same time,
Yes.
especially with those first couple of stories. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to build the world. I'm learning more about my map. Do I sometimes have all of these things already laid out? Sometimes, sure. If I'm like in world building mode, yes. Then I'm like, no, I'm just having fun. I'm making maps, and I'm like, I want this to happen. And I know nothing about anything that's going on with it yet, but I'm just creating a world, and then I'll drop people in it. But sometimes the stories just start coming as I'm thinking about who lives in this world with this thing that's happening. And I can start from there without knowing every detail. I don't know what her hair color is or her eye. I don't even know what race they are at this point yet. I don't know.
That part, yes. I would say I'm no, my father's actually not out mowing the lawn, and I'm so sorry you guys can hear this. I was just complaining to Nia. I'm like, one day I'm gonna move to like a place where I don't even know what my neighbor's house looks like, because I'm just like, I'm so over
Far, far away.
everybody and the lawn cutting and trimming and everything in my neighborhood. It's just like they know when I have something going on, because um, or when my allergies are kicking up. Like, it's one of the two. The other day, I think I was on a backstage with somebody, and they were doing something, and I kept scratching at my eye, and I couldn't figure out why. And I realized it was because I had my window open, and someone was out doing lawn work. And I was like, oh yeah,
Yep.
okay, that's why. I would say on my 2 pages is very, very similar. And here's where my difference lies, is if I am developing a series that I've already got the idea for all the stories to, or if I'm like if something just sparks. Because if something just sparks, I could, like you said, I could need a name, what's going to happen in the story, and my two main characters. And from there, everything just builds.
Hmm.
If I'm doing, say, like the Christmas series that I'm doing now, because some of you have seen my Christmas town, and all of my stuff. And honestly, guys, if I hadn't had a migraine, all that stuff probably wouldn't have been there. I had a migraine. I wanted to feel productive, and laying in my bed scrolling through Pinterest was how I could feel productive. But there are times, no, like, as long as I know the characters and I know the location. And like you said, is it East Coast? Is it West Coast? Is it mountain? Is it flatlands? Is it um like a larger small town, or is it a smaller small town?
Hmm.
Like those types of vibes. Okay, let's go. Because honestly, that's kind of, especially because you're very much kind of, you like to build the world and then drop the people in it. I like to build the people and then build the world around them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what do you guys need? Okay, you need some place to go hang out and have dinner. Let's make a diner. Oh, you want to go play basketball? Okay, let's come up with the field. Oh, you need to do this. Let's build that. So yes, I like to make the people, and they're like, what do you need? So yeah, like that's pretty. And honestly, guys, this is why we decided to do this, is because, as you can see, that's not a lot. you know, um, can we, as Nia said, when we're in world building mode, go fully in depth and like build towns that could rival actual towns?
Yes.
Sure. um and have a ball doing it, and just be all giddy and everything else. But also, we don't necessarily need that. And I don't think we would say it, if you need that in order to build your world and to write your story, have at it. Um, but find your sweet spot in there, I think, is what we're trying to say, because we don't want you guys to think, oh, well, I can't start writing yet because I need to have Tiffany and Nia level
Right.
world building.
Yeah.
um,
Because I will say, particularly with my sci-fi, and I have a fantasy and a dystopian that I'm actively work on, but because I'm having so much fun with the world building, these are things I've been working on for years, um, since I've been on the AutoTube side of things, and they're not written yet. I have stuff written for them, but they're not written as in they're not published.
mhm,
They're in pieces, episodes for the comic. But Tiffany has seen that what I have for that, I could write for like 2, 3 years. I could write an
easily,
episode a
easily.
month easily for everything that I
Mhm,
have, for all of the characters, for the alien species. Like, I've just but for that was all not just a labor of love, but it was just so much fun to do. That's one of the things that was just more fun than even writing the story for me. So
mhm.
just to create this world, and I have this world that I can do many things with, and we'll talk about that some other time because that's a sci-fi thing. So I have this
Also,
giant
guys,
world.
pay attention to what she said. She just said it was years of building, not like 2 months, not two
No.
weeks, not a couple of
I
days.
have built spacecrafts. The spacecrafts have interior designs. The
Mhm.
larger ships have levels. So those types of things take years, but I'm not taking years to do my small towns.
Right.
I will say that.
And I would even, I mean, obviously I can't speak for like the bigger names in like, our industry or what they do or how they work with stuff. But I would even hazard to say some of the authors that we adore, who have like these multi series, with 4, 5, 6 books in each one, and this town that feels 100% fleshed out. And like, you feel like you could walk down the street and see, like, Jill's Bakery or something.
Mhm.
Like, when they first wrote that first book, Jill's Bakery probably didn't exist unless it was a bakery, series. Um, like the the distillery up the street wasn't there, unless it was a distillery series. Like, there's probably a bunch of stuff that has built and grown and changed and moved and everything else based on what series they were writing in that moment. And, you know, I guess like it's easy to look at the grand scheme and think, oh, everybody knows everything about their people and their series and all the books that are there. There are times I only know the name of a character, like the first name of a character. Case in point, the next book that I'm writing in the Christmas series, I know her name. Does she have a last name?
Yeah.
Does she have parents? Does she have siblings? Best friend? She's brunette? She's in her 20s. That's all I got for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't always know. I think she's still in college. I'm not even positive about that.
And that's just the way that it is sometimes. But I bet it's going to be a great story nonetheless, you know?
I mean, I hope so. We don't know. Maybe I'll figure out her last name as we go. I don't know.
But
Do you
I
ever
think
have that? Because I have characters that have been full on characters in stories, like that people have loved. I still couldn't tell you their last name.
oh, yeah. Yep.
Couldn't tell you anything about their family. I can't tell you anything other than what they did in that story.
Yep. Yep. I have, particularly with with my pen name stories, um, I went ahead and I just found a lot of characters and
Mhm.
gave them names and started grouping them. And you look kind of like you guys could be siblings. Y'all look similar. You could be cousins. And just so that I could have a roster of people. So that when I started writing, I'm like, oh, she needs a friend. Okay, you. Now and then I have to remember now I have to start filling in their personality and what book I've written them in and who the best friend is. And so yeah, it's very interesting. And I only did that I only did I call her codename Penny. I only did codename Penny like that um so that I wouldn't end up with so many extra random people. I'm like I've got to as I'm writing. Otherwise, I'd be like, I have so many people, I don't even know who they are anymore. So I'm like, let me at least give myself a list. And that list can always change because sometimes I'm like, no, I just
Mhm.
need another person. I'll go, what do I think they look like? Grab a picture of someone who looks similar and start filling out their character bio as I'm writing a story. Maybe they'll get a story in the future, maybe not, but I just needed a person and I don't want to forget that I created this person in the
That
story.
leads to another question, and we're probably going to answer this in two different ways, and it might actually surprise people. But you just said, like you just picked a whole bunch of people, kind of figure out the names, which I've done myself as well because I knew I wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff in this particular town, and so
Yeah.
I did that as well. Um, do you when you do that character bio for your side character that may or may not one day get a story, could show up, may not show up, all of that, what's in that character bio? Because I think that's another thing that people think we have a full on, like we know their Enneagram score and their personality
Yeah.
traits and all the different stuff. What's in that character bio when you do it?
When I do that, if I say what they look like, I will say I mentioned that they had blue eyes or red hair, but usually I'm also grabbing the picture so I can see that. Is it a curvy girl? Is it a
Mm-hmm.
muscular guy? Just whatever. Basically, only what I write in that story because they're a side character that only showed up there. So I'm only writing what I put in that story because again, if I want to use them later, I'm going to want to develop their character. So if I make them quirky or super serious, then I'm gonna like very serious in whatever book. They were in such and such book. They're very serious. Ex's best friend or whatever. So only what I write in the story. That way, if I want to use them again, I can like, oh, I need them to be at their job. Maybe they work at the supermarket. So I need them to show up. Let me look and see. Okay, so they're kind of snooty. I'm going to make sure that when I write them working in the supermarket, they're just snooty. And and then I'll write, okay, added them. They worked in the supermarket in this book. And that's it. They don't have a full character bio unless I'm going to go back
Mm-hmm.
and make them a story. Now, if they are a serious side character, they're going to have a little bit more detail, and I'm just making notes of what I've already said for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily going out and fleshing their whole entire backstory because that's and not. I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's just when I'm working on at least two pen names and trying to do a comic and then I've got four kids and a Loki. I'm like I fleshing out this person's backstory is not something I need to do right
That
now.
may or may not show up.
I
Yeah.
also want to do my artwork and create maps and there's just too many other things that I want to do. I'm not doing this person's backstory.
Agreed. I think I'm similar, and I love that you said you kind of write some stuff, but you're mostly writing notes about what you've said in the book.
Hmm.
Because I too am like that. Even my main character sometimes I don't have full. The only time I ever really go in and I think flesh out the character's personality and everything else before I start writing the story is if I'm having trouble getting into the character's head. If not, everything develops as I write. And then it's like I take notes, and that's what goes into the series Bible of what this character said, how this character reacted, how this happened, how that happened, who they've become friends with, all that different stuff. Now I do have one character that I was just like, I moved them out of the town, and I know I'm moving them back in. And I was like, when they come back in, they're going to be friends with this person. They're going to go fishing every Saturday. Because I was just like, that feels like something Southern y'all would do.
Yeah.
So like I do sometimes have small things like that I'll be like, oh, I think this sounds like fun, and it'll be something quirky to put in like later on in the stories. But for the most part, the things that I come up with are stuff that's written in the books. Like there are things that have happened in the books. They're not things that I've sat down and I'm like, okay, Paul, he's gonna be a grumpy. He's gonna have this. His best friend's gonna be Brian. Like no,
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't care about Paul if I did all that, because then I'd be trying to fit Paul into a mold, and Paul may do some crazy stuff in the middle of the story.
Now, when I do this, it's because I know I'm going to use the side characters.
Mhm.
For one of my stories, I have it's some ranchers. One of the ranchers has several brothers and a single mom, and they have a convoluted history. But I know I'm going to write a story for each one of these brothers. So it's okay to talk about, and the mom's going to get her own story. So it's okay to go ahead and say how they ended up here. Why
Oh
is this
yeah.
one a grumpy? Why is this one a caretaker? Because of the
Mhm.
things that they went through. Why is she single? Because of the things that they went through as a family. But there's only one brother who's in the ranchers. The other brothers are gonna be in whatever their
I
series
think
is.
family is a little bit different.
Mhm.
Because, and the reason why I say that is because family dynamics. Sometimes you
Yes.
have to know who's the baby,
Mhm.
or who can work mom, like who's daddy's girl,
Who's
who's
the
mama's
protector?
boy, who's the protector, who's the one that handles all the family stuff, who's the
Who's
drama
the
of the
misfit?
family,
Yeah, the
you know.
trauma, the misfit. Gotta know all
Mhm.
these things.
And so sometimes because of that, you do need to know a little bit more in a family dynamic, when you first sit down, or at least have a general idea for
Yes.
characters. Like, I know in one series that I'm doing, the middle child is the grumpy, but I know why they're the grumpy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, and I needed to know that before I started writing it, because they do play heavily in all the other books. And so I can't have them be all cheery and peppy and bright. In the other books, and we only get to his and he's all grumpy.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, wait, what happened? Like, wait. Um, so sometimes you do need to know that. And yeah, I think family dynamics are different. The same could be said sometimes if you're doing, like, if you're doing, say, like a fireman series, because, or a military series, because
Mhm.
those are like brothers, those are like, like family in arms, if you will. And as someone who has both in my family, I know that a lot of times those same type of family dynamics can exist in those, where you do have that one person who's, always talking about their baby girl back home, they gotta get back home for, or that person who,
Mhm.
that's the cook, like he always cooks for everybody,
Mhm.
or this other person
Can make
who,
a gourmet meal with a can of beans.
right, like this person who, maybe this is everybody calls him preacher, because like he's the one who is always like, we got to have some faith, we're going to make it through, type of something. So you need those dynamics, I think,
Mhm.
sometimes in the beginning, to just, and even a rough sketch of that is good in order to do that. So Nia, I'm gonna put her on the spot, y'all. Last night, I went through. Also, and I probably should drop this link in there. I have to go look for it. There's a wonderful website that I found recently that might be my new best friend. Because as someone who loves to make up towns all the time, even if I'm not going to use them, or just likes to have town names just in case, I found this website that will literally give you a listing of town names for fictional towns. I love Neat's face. She's like, what?
Tiffany has also seen that I make maps for towns that don't exist.
I know. Like, I was like, I found it by accident, looking for something totally different. And then I was like any town. And here's the great part about it. It doesn't have to be US. Like, it has a whole listing of countries you can choose from.
I know you know.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pull up the link. Wait, let me find the link. Because honestly, I was like in a zone, and you can pick how many that it gives you. Now it will repeat. In there, this is the link. But it is one of my favorite new places. And so, I'm dropping in the private chat for you, Nia.
Okay, so I'm like, I have to go onto the YouTube thing to grab it, but thank you.
Esther's like, you are telling me I don't have to come up with a town name?
Oh my god!
When I tell you, I was having so much fun, and then I noticed you could do different countries, and I was like, and if you pick the United States, y'all, bonus points. You can pick a city or like a town. A city or a state. I can't quite remember exactly. And it will give you names that seem similar. And you can click fictional or no. It was a whole thing. I went down as a whole full rabbit hole.
I love this. You have no idea. As someone who has perhaps created entire things, this is going to be so helpful because they don't all have names yet. Because I'm like, this is
now. I will tell you, check them. Because I have found some names on there that when I went over to say like Amazon or I Googled, it was either a real place or it was a fictional place on Amazon. So check them. But one of my favorite things though is sometimes to look at what they have and then mix and match.
Yes. You know, I like to mix and match. Nice.
So everybody's like bookmarking this now.
Going in my bookmark.
Eva, I don't have any plan. Nia, well, I know you're still like kind of sad because of the devastation, but you don't have any hurricane romances coming, do you?
Huh?
Uh-oh, guys.
I'm
Never mind. Hold on. Never mind.
Nothing like this. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But it's also something that was already. Yeah, it's. I do have a couple of storm things, but were already in the making. One's already written, so. But they were already things that were. So, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yay! Because if y'all don't know, I love me.
I'm so fascinated with I watch those so much. It's ridiculous. They freak me out.
I haven't seen the new movie, The Twister, but I have seen Twister, which is one of my faves.
What I don't like is that now there's a lot of AI generated tornado things. And I'm like, that's not real. It makes me so mad because, okay, not that I want anyone putting their lives in danger to chase these storms, but that's actually what I want to see. I don't want to see these fake ones. And it gets frustrating now that, okay, that's a tangent we don't need to go on. But I do love to watch storm chasing.
Sky did put winter storms maybe in my Christmas book. So maybe a little snowed in blizzard or something like that.
Love a snowed in blizzard. Those are amazing.
And yeah, I do question, like, I wonder, because Esther does have a good point, because she says I may have
Mhm.
too much trauma regarding hurricanes to write or read romances. And that's why I said I didn't know how you were feeling, because I know, if anybody doesn't know, Nia is in the pathway of where Hurricane Helene kind of did travel.
Yeah.
And
I am east of it. We just got some wind and rain, nothing like what they got towards the west, but yeah.
yeah.
But we have had in 2016 and 2018 we had two really bad hurricanes that flooded everything. Um
Hmm.
so yeah, where everybody's houses were like pretty much underwater except for ours, and like our neighborhood was good, but like my brother's whole neighborhood was
Mm.
flooded. So yeah. So
That's why I asked if,
I
like,
don't write
there might
anything
still be like a
exactly.
little
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah, I don't write anything exactly like that. So I write where I feel what I feel comfortable, but it might be traumatic for other people. So I do have
Hmm.
some one story that is in the story that I wrote for NaNoWriMo, different situations, but also there's like things that happen naturally, like wildfires, um, things like that, flooding,
Hmm.
um, but they're in a different circumstance. Like I removed myself from, like we all have our lived experiences, but
Hmm.
so there's that. But when I write my stories are what's happening to these characters
Yeah.
in their town.
Yeah.
So it's their town specific for anything that's happening. And I don't have any North Carolina stories. I Ravens Cove is South Carolina, and then Ethereal Falls is Massachusetts.
Okay.
So they do have there is weather. Things do happen.
And Eva, we have, well, St. Louis, knock on things. We have not had like serious hurricanes. Yes, we have flooding. We have Missouri has lots of flooding. But we have had hurricanes in the middle of the state. Once or twice that were pretty devastating from what I remember, but fortunately we haven't kind of been hit too hard. And then I went to school in Kansas, but thankfully we didn't have anything while I was there either. But I do know some places around us that did. So I think that that's also, if you're going to do something like that, especially like, as you know, Esther and Sky said, like I would do trigger warnings for sure, because there are people
Mhm.
that would be very triggering for,
Yep.
especially depending on where they live, or like how, what's happened with family, different things like that. Because while I, again, middle of the country, have not necessarily been affected by any of these things, I do have family in Florida and I have family in Texas that has. And so like those, kind of, I don't know how much, like Nia said, I don't know escapism. I don't know how much that would play in my head or anything like that. So
Yeah. And like I've already written Snowden, blizzard, trees were down, you know,
yeah, I do a
I
Snowden
fully
blizzard.
and it's a Snowden. Nobody seems to mind that.
Hmm.
I don't know if, but you just you say what it is. You do your blurb, and
Hmm.
it's obviously what's going on. So hopefully, if there is some, because people have
I
had really
haven't.
bad
I
experience with
will say.
snowstorms and ice. Where they've been stranded with no power in the winter for days and days. That happened
I
in
have
Texas.
not done that one, but I have been I have been in a heat wave with no power. There's another fun fact. If it
Yeah,
gets too
that's
hot,
awful.
heat, your heat wave will knock out all of the power. We had no power for like a week and a half during one summer. So if you're looking for that type of no power blizzard in, forced proximity type of a
Yeah.
conversation, yeah.
So trigger warning, or if it's in the blurb, I don't feel like a storm is a spoiler in a blurb,
Yeah.
especially with romance,
But I
because
will say, in the sense of blizzard, because I have been in two in Colorado where the whole city was basically shut down. And one of which, like our neighborhood had to dig itself out because it was a cul-de-sac and they couldn't get the street things into the area, like into the neighborhood, because of all the snow. If you're gonna do a neighbor's romance, that might be a good one to throw together. Because I didn't even know half our neighbors until we had to. All of us were out there with shovels. So there's an option as well if you guys like to do that. RK, I too am old enough to remember the 93 flooding in Missouri, and it was a thing. It was crazy. Yeah, that was a crazy time. I had a whole thing planned, and I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get out of St. Louis to go, because it was water. Like, Nia, literally, if you come visit, I will take you. There is a place. They have a stick that somebody went out and they marked like where the flooding is, and you can see it over the years of how far. And like there's one flood that's like the highest flood up until 93 was, say, like right here, and then 93 is like up here compared to this one flood. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
And I don't live as far away from where the river is as I probably should for that type of flooding. So yeah, it was wild. Okay, so we have a little bit of time before we hit questions. So if you guys have any questions, again, I know I've got a couple that we're gonna get to. Go ahead and still put them in the chat. But
why is the fact that there's a town called Hannibal, Missouri, giving me story ideas?
There is a Hannibal, Missouri. Actually, I'm trying to remember. Is Hannibal where Mark Twain's from? I'm trying to remember because I think it is.
Is it? Wow.
I think it is. I don't remember. Yeah. Eva just confirmed. Mark Twain is from there. Yeah, because I was like, I know we went there for a school trip, like a field trip or a Girl Scout trip when I was a kid. So that's why I'm like, wasn't that where Mark Twain was from? But yeah, no, Hannibal, Missouri. It's an interesting little place. Yeah, it's interesting. Good art though. They've got some really good art there. Like kind of like random statues and stuff. And so yeah. Oh, hey Richard. Who's your hero? And was this a good meeting? Because you know they say never meet your heroes. So was this a good meeting that we met our hero? Okay, so in the few minutes that we have before we get into questions, I'm going to throw a little monkey wrench at Miss Nia over here. So I went through. Oh, it's amazing! Yay! I came up with the name. Oh, that would be so fun, Richard! Guys,
that is awesome.
If you don't know,
Ben Pig is an awesome person.
It's one of our lovely people in AuthorTube who has some amazing books. If you've not read his books, please go check them out.
I have a copy of
it. He's way over there at the moment and met up with one of our other favorite AuthorTube authors, Mr. Richard Holiday. Oh, I bet that was so much fun. I bet that was awesome. so much fun. And Richard, in true fashion, sign up for his newsletter.
Yes, do sign up for his newsletter.
We love a full-on shameless plug, and Richard is great at it with his newsletter. So, by all means, sign up for Richard's newsletter. It's great. I don't know if Richard's necessarily an AuthorTuber, but he's like honorary on the cusp. We'll adopt him. Oh, I bet that was so much fun. Yay! Awesome. And I hope Ben has a wonderful trip while he's there. So absolutely.
Ben is one of my co-hosts on it. We do scripting the book, and I love his takes. He's got great takes, guys.
And Richard's like, I do streams when I feel like it. Oh, that's awesome. He's just as incredible in real life as he is online. That's so fun. So yes,
That's
by all means, support all of our people. Okay, so Nia, Stonewall Bay is the name that I came up with.
oh.
If we were going to brainstorm the start of Stonewall Bay, what would we come up with?
Okay, so I need to know. I'm like, where is Stonewall Bay? You
I
say
don't
bay,
know.
so
I'm
I'm
open
like,
to anything.
we're by water. I love
We
this.
got to be by
So
water. I agree.
I'm thinking, depending on where we're at, if we're going further north, East Coast or West Coast, we're gonna have like coves and some caves.
Oh, we got some
And then
suggestions. JC said, why do I immediately think old military base, which could be by water? Eva said Maine, which could work as well.
Mhm. And then I'm thinking, are we how much of the bay is part of the name? So are we more of a beachy? We've got like a little Ferris wheel and like a little fun area on the bay, or is this like really a beachy kind of bay, or is this a fishery type of bay? So these are all things I'm going to start thinking about.
I like
Is there a
fishery.
combination of two of these things?
I
You
like
know, because I
fishery
mean,
kind of
you
an
get
idea.
you get some fishermen in there, or you get some like beachy vibes going. So I'm like, how big is this bay? Can we do both? You know, this literally, I'm like, because
Ooh.
I'm like, the map is building in my head. So I'm like flipping the map if it's East Coast or if it's West Coast. Like, this is where I start. So then when I get an idea, so we like fishery.
Mm-hmm.
I
Everybody's
kind of
looking fish and rocks.
like fish and rock. So we've got
Rich,
some
you're so
caves.
goofy. You're the main character.
And
I was
okay,
thinking
so we
if
have
we
a
went
character named
military,
Richard. What's Richard doing in
I
what's
was
Richard doing?
thinking
Is
if
Richard a
we
fisherman?
did
What's happening?
um Canada could work too. If we did do like an old
Canada could work.
military kind of conversation, I was like, what would be cool? Like Canada could work, maybe like a Massachusetts or something, because of the Stonewall. Like it could be kind of an interesting, maybe like there's an old military base that's kind of crumbling, like
Yeah.
by the bay type of
So
a
if
conversation.
the bay is military, I'm thinking we gotta have a fort something.
Oh, I like that. I like that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm a Carolina girl. We got some forts
I love a
around
good
here.
fort. Ooh, what if
Um,
it is? What if that's the industry though? What if it's not an old military base? What if that's where, say, like an Air Force base is, or like a army base or something?
yes, that totally could be the industry.
That could be the industry. Mm-hmm. Especially because I really. What if we have? Now, see, here's where we go. Here's where we differ.
She said Richard is in the Navy.
I know, I saw that. Richard would be a good name for a submariner. We could do a marine base. That could work too. I do love a good marine. My
Mhm.
family, we've got a number of them. Okay, here's where we start to differ. Nia's getting excited because she's thinking of industry and everything. I said military, and I was like, what if we have a captain that's getting ready to retire? And he takes
I love
like
it.
this person under his wing to help him train, and ends up falling for like the guy's sister who comes to town.
I like it. I like it.
Richard,
Oh,
not
and what if she's coming? She's thinking, okay, I'm gonna be going to the beach. So she's got her glasses and her swimsuit and everything ready. And she's like, what is this? What is this?
right.
So they clash
Um,
a little bit because he thinks, oh, she's a little prissy. And she's like, he thinks he's a macho man or whatever. So they're clashing. Maybe
and
there's a little storm. They have to, they get stuck in a lighthouse. Okay, I've got to think for lighthouses. So maybe there's a little storm, they get stuck in a lighthouse or something. This is a short, guys. We got to keep it short.
mm-hmm. Maybe they find out that they have a little bit more in common than they
Mm-hmm.
would have originally thought. Like maybe he thinks she's prissy, but what if back home she runs something like the tattoo shop
Yeah.
or like a garage for cars or something like
Yeah,
that. So
and
she
it's not that
looks
she was yeah,
prissy,
and it
but
wasn't
she's
that she was
not.
prissy, she just needed a vacation, and
Yeah.
this was not what she was expecting.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And maybe he actually is the prissy one. Like maybe he's the one who's
Mhm.
like the chef. Like he cook. Why do all my men cook? I just realized this the other day
Like
when
I
I was
was
like in my store.
totally
I was
kidding.
like, why do I make all of my men cook? Maybe I'm looking for a guy who's like a chef. And he go hang out at the back of like restaurants or something. Uh, ooh, we could change it out. Maybe she's the captain and he's the one visiting. That could work
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. Um, but also, oh, she's used to men seeing her too much, too stern, not feminine, and maybe he's the one that does see her in that light. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so by now, because I've gotten the place, we figured out, I think we decided that it's East Coast, we're looking
Mm-hmm.
Maine, military base. That's enough for me to start
That's what I was going
writing,
to say.
and I'm filling in the map as I'm writing along. So she goes to the beach and it's all rocks. She's like, "This is not what I was expecting." She runs into him. He's like, "Oh, here's one of these girls coming looking for the beach, whatever." Um, a storm rolls in. They end up running for the lighthouse. So now I've given myself a lighthouse. I'm
I like it.
literally filling in my map.
I love a
You know what I mean?
lighthouse.
That's when they get to know each other, and then they're like, "Well, we're hungry. We can't leave the lighthouse because the waves are like literally crashing up now. So we're kind of
And
stuck
so
here for a
he
while."
he
He's like,
being
he
military
finds a little
always has
food,
something.
yes, and he can whip something up
Mm-hmm.
for her, and then they're eating and they're talking, and I've come to
Mm-hmm.
find out she's a hard working, been running a business. She came to watch her first thinking one thing, thinking she was going to get it some time to relax, and this just wasn't what she was expecting. And that's all it was. Not that she was like, "Oh, where's the sand?" you know
And what I would do is now I would switch it. It's not that she came to visit her brother, it's that she came to visit her sister, who's now being promoted to captain in his place. Because what I would do is then take Nia's statement of the sister or the woman who's the captain, who's used to being seen as too stern, too much, to this, and that's going to be the next story. And she would find the dude that she falls in love with, who's
Yes.
the guy who doesn't see her as that. And
Yeah.
that's how you, again, like Esther said, and now we have a series. There we
Yeah.
go.
And maybe he is a fisherman in this town.
Mm.
She's getting, he's a fisherman in this town, and he
Maybe he
actually
just
sees her.
came
He
back.
sees her as resilient, and he's like, "Yeah,
Mhm,
come out fishing with me." And she thinks
mhm.
he's going to be mansplaining, and he's like, "No, you got this."
Yeah. He's like, I like the fact that you know how to take charge.
Yeah,
And then maybe the next book is maybe her best friend that's also in the military. That can be
hmm
male or female, who maybe it's a second chance, or maybe it's someone who's given up on love because they're career military. They never thought that they would ever find love outside of the military. They planned to live and die, for the US of A. And then they find somebody else,
yeah,
and there you go.
yeah,
Esther has a whole or not Esther. Esther's like, and now we have a series. Eva's like
yeah.
Stonewall Bay. They come on
And
orders, they stay for
yeah,
love.
and maybe while the first couple were in the lighthouse, maybe they are rummaging
Oh,
around. They
hi
find some
Richard.
old
Thanks
letters
for
or
stopping
something.
by.
Bye. Maybe they find some old letters or something, and they're like, "Hey, let's send these old letters to the family of whoever this person was," and that brings
Mm-hmm.
them back to the town because now they want to come looking for answers.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, and maybe they do because maybe they never knew what happened to their person, and
Yeah.
the person who helps them that's in the military, then that's the romance. Oh, you're so sweet.
No, the
Esther says,
Optic
so
Tube
great.
romance series. We just
These are
wrote
the
it.
brains we have every day backstage. I feel so privileged. I feel very privileged. Thank you so much. So, oh my God, yes, the letters. The letters in the lighthouse help solve the murder in my story. Wait, when does? Oh yes, because you did have somebody who was murdered. Yeah, I do remember. Maybe they're trying to follow their ancestors' romance. So yeah, but as you can see, what did we take? We took 15 minutes and a name, and came up with at least enough to start writing a story. We don't know what else is in the town other than the military base and the lighthouse. We don't know what other characters are there except for the woman who comes to visit her sister, the sister who's going to be promoted to captain, and the captain who's retiring, and the fisherman who's coming into town, and maybe a best friend. We don't know what anybody looks like. We have some personality, but not a lot, and not for everybody. And
Only for
so,
the people in the first stories.
exactly.
Only for the people in the story that
Exactly.
we're writing do we have personality for.
And both of us said at the exact same time, okay, we'd be ready to write.
Yep.
So as you can see, it's not a lot that goes into us creating a character, creating a story, and creating a place. So we hope that that has given you kind of a sense or an idea. I'm not going to say this Stonewall Bay is coming out anytime soon, but we did have fun with that. I know. This guy's like, and they came up with a whole flip of series.
Stonewall Bay, so the fort has got to be Fort Stonewall. Is that a name already? I would then look that up.
Yeah, definitely would look that up for sure. There were like 5 different story ideas. There might have been. Okay. And then JC's like, okay, but seriously, y'all are going to make this a real series, right? Because I'm already invested. And he was like, new co-author name. And then I was like, okay, so who is coordinating this coastal military collapse series?
Right.
Stone Ridge, if Wall is taken, we could maybe do that. So y'all are so funny. All right, we did have a few questions that I want to get into. We did get a Regina, which I did want to pop that up and say hello. I think I got everybody else when they came in, or I marked it. Oh, I don't think I got Laura, because I remember seeing Laura when she came in as well. So hi, Laura. We also had this question from Esther. Do you think of a town through just one season or through all the seasons, or is it more like what you need in the moment? Mine is what I need in the moment.
Mine is because I kind of need my location. So the seasons are going to be however they are in that location, and I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah. Now, when I come up with a series that's in the moment, if I'm going to use that town repeatedly, then yes, I am gonna need to know all of the seasons. Because chances are my stories, unless it's something like the elfing story that I'm working on right now, that's always going to be set in Christmas. Who's reading elfing during, December? Or I mean, like during May. And not that I couldn't do a story there. It's just I came up with it specifically for the idea of holiday. So that one is always going to be blistery and cold. I don't really need anything else. But if you are planning on using it multiple times at different points of the year, then yes, I would recommend that.
Yeah. And if that's something that you're thinking about, you might maybe, if it's important to you, pick a place or a region that you're going to pop your place in that has the spectrum of seasons that you want. That doesn't mean that you can't use a Florida because it would, or even Southern California. Just know that that's going to be a different kind of Christmas, and it was just totally legit. One of my favorite more recent holiday ones is it's like she goes to Australia, so their Christmas is like summertime. So
and that's a great series idea, like a vacation Christmas series idea where everybody's going to, like, you could pick a group of friends, they're going. Actually, I feel like I started to watch a Hallmark movie like this, and they switched it out on me because I thought that was what was going to happen, and it didn't. But it was like, well, because I think I remember it was a group of girlfriends, and they every year they go to like Hawaii or some Caribbean island or something like that for the holiday. And then what happened was one of them was like, I thought that was what I was getting. And instead, like the main chick, her boss sends her to like the small town hokey doke place that, you know, is all wintry and everything else that she has to do. And then she ends up falling in love. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, that's not the tropical Christmas that I
Yeah, I
expected.
thought we were gonna do so yeah, and those are super fun. People like me, I will definitely watch or read something where
Yeah.
the Christmas is a little bit different from, the
Mhm.
snowed the snowy with, all the
And
cold
this
weather.
is a good point, Sky. Christmas in July is a whole thing. If I were going to do it, I'd maybe do a one off that's like a companion to the other stories than necessarily doing a full series in July. But yeah, that's an idea as well.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking of Sky, she also asked, is it okay if my story Bible is in my head? Or is it okay if the story Bible is in my head, right? LOL, not a real question. You know what? I watched, if you ever watched the Spa Girls podcast, I absolutely adore them. There is a woman who I watched, great ideas. Like, oh my gosh, she had amazing concepts. I took a bazillion notes. And I don't remember who it is. I would have to go back and look. She actually has a full series. And I mean, it's like demons and angels and like not short books, like full length books. And I think there's like 7 or 8 stories in it. And she said she does keep her whole series Bible on her head. And I was
Mhm.
like, that's impressive because I would forget somebody's name in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I couldn't do it, but yeah, if you can do it and keep it straight, yes.
So yeah, I was full on impressed. I was like, okay. But yeah. That
My
is
Unfortunately, my memory will not let me do that. I will forget half the story and be mad at myself.
mhm, easily. I would, y'all know me. I can mix up Evan and Ethan while writing the story. So
I have mixed up sports teams' names. Morgan, bless her, has gone through like,
right.
this is a different sports team. I'm like, my bad, because I'm mixing up my sports teams.
And almost just to prove that was not a real question, Sky goes, I'm not her because I will forget in an hour.
Yeah, I'm like, I have an idea.
So
That's
yeah,
gone now.
that was impressive. Like when she said it, I was kind of looking at her like, really? You have a notebook with some like sticky notes or something somewhere? Like, uh, we did have some people who did agree with different parts. Esther said, I'm more like Nia. I build the world and then populate it. Very much like I play The Sims. I build more
Mhm.
than I gameplay. JC also said, I am more character driven. Regina said, my main character needed a library, and out of that sprang the Eagles Toe Library, 1930-ish architecture, Pueblo style, old dark wood inside, and an elderly librarian to match. So yes,
Nice.
that um is definitely something. And she's like, you better do right by my friends. I think that was when I was like, I don't know who's coming up in these stories. I see. I told you there was a Laura who came in. There she is.
Mhm.
I knew I marked it. And Esther said, now I want to make small Puerto Rican towns. When I put in the
Um,
naming, like the name website, she's like, ooh. Uh,
it's
okay.
gonna be so
Renee's
helpful.
question was like, how would I create a universe with several towns that are all connected and just drop series into the universe?
Um, the way that I do that is I kind of like, so with Ethereal Falls, there is a city that I use, and it's called West Bend, but I think it's West Bend City. I don't know for sure because I'm not looking at it. It's West something. And then I have a southern, well, I create whole counties. So I have a southern county, and that's Ravens Cove. And they're all connected. And it's just, I have them there. I know that they
Mm,
exist. I'm not necessarily writing everything for them. Like I've written almost nothing for West Bend except for that I've now had um in the Christmas series that's coming up, the girl's brother lives there. Um, and then in the first book, I believe it was the first book, our main character is from there and he comes to our small town. That's really all I know, is that it's a city. Probably not quite as big as New York, but you know, definitely much bigger than the town that they're in. So it's like a small city, like a small New York in my brain, and I just have it marked that it exists. Um, I don't even have that one mapped out. Whereas with Ravenscove is lightly mapped out, and I have more characters from there already. And I think the only ones I used are maybe the celebrity. Um, you know what I mean? I, and it was a more, I was playing around with maps, so I went ahead and did it. Um, and then I just have them there. So also with Ethereal Falls, there's because of the nature of Ethereal Falls, there's places in other countries that are like Ethereal Falls. Ethereal Falls, it's contemporary, but it's a place that has magic. So I have a place in Europe that has magic, and other places. So I have them written down. I have them written where they're at. This name generator thing is going to be amazing when I start utilizing those. So right now they just exist, and there's will be a mention of them um in uh in the freebie that I have coming up for next summer. One of the guys is from one of the towns that's like Ethereal Falls, but it's in Europe. It's in, I believe it's in Greece, maybe. It's around Greece, Italy. It's fictional. It's all completely made up. But that's basically where he's from. Oh no, that is whatever. She's visiting. I forget. I think she's visiting for summer. She's visiting for summer.
Oh.
I have too many stories, but yes. So I these places exist, but there's not really any detail about these other places except for what I need for the story until we go there. Once we go there, then I'm like, okay, now I need more things for whatever story that I'm writing for it. So I just create places that I will need if I want to have characters come from somewhere and not say they're from New York or they're from Athens, or I can
Mhm.
have my own place that I can then in the future utilize. So that's kind of how I create my small town world universe. Is I just create places on the West Coast, on the East Coast, maybe a place in the Midwest. That's a random town that I can pull from in the future. And it's I'll have one of the characters is from that place, but that place has no real details until I need it, or until I have time on my hand that I'm like, ooh, I've got like 4 hours of chill time. I want to use that chill time making a map for one of the towns, and I'll just go make a map for it. That's fun time for me.
I think for me, similar to Nia, I do tend to just randomly make up places. That's why I needed the title generator, or the town generator. But for me, if I'm not just randomly making up places, like, and I do want, like how you said, you want to create a whole universe and then have the towns connected, I would figure out why they're connected or how they're connected. Like, is it one's going to be a college town, so maybe that's where all of your people go to
Mm-hmm.
college. Maybe someone, like, you have a huge industry, like I know for Des Lorre we have a coffee chain that we started that's supposed to be like our Starbucks. So like that's the connections, that everybody gets that specific coffee. It doesn't matter where we put a town, they're
Mm-hmm.
using that coffee. Like, think about, again, like Nia said, is someone from there? Is someone visiting one of the other places? How are these places connected? There's someone who I really admire, Casey Rose. She does a great thing of universal world building. Like, if you read her books, almost every place and character is somehow connected to every place and character. um and like with hers, it's a lot of people. So like maybe there's military people who are over here, but they're connected to like this place that has the military hospital. Or maybe there are like people who, I think she has someone who's like a celebrity, but they're connected to the people who are from the military hospital who live over here who run like the security place, so
Mhm.
like think of how they are connected. And once you think of how they are connected, then I think it's easier to form the connections um, between the places. And that's where you get into your whole universe. But it also works really well, again, if you just are like coming up with towns and then put in the connections. Because sometimes, again, we didn't realize when we came up with the coffee place that everybody was going to drink the coffee. We just came up with the coffee place because they weren't a coffee shop and they needed coffee. That was all we knew. So yeah, and then the coffee place, just like literally, y'all, our coffee place has its own logo. Because once we realized it and where we wanted to take it and how we wanted to use it, then we got into the coffee place. But yeah, um, just figure it out and do it that way. I think would be a great one. RK has a question for you. Nia, how do you make your maps? Do you use a specific program?
Depending on the kind of map I'm making, I don't use a specific program. I either draw them by hand if I want my accurate maps. So I will have very accurate maps that are like, to the mile. Those I do by hand, and they're like a map that I can actually just look at. And then I have my fun maps, and I mostly do those in Canva and in Procreate.
Yeah. And in the
So
sense of everybody's really into this Stonewall Bay that I just randomly pulled out of my ankle. Um, Sky is like, oh, ooh, Mulan retelling, but in the Marines. Esther's like, I like that Mulan military retelling. Sky. Eva's like, they go out to look for a missing fishing boat. It's a regular fisherman. Esther's like a tatted female baddie with a prickly military brat. And then if we write it, she's like, I call dibs on the tatted female baddie with the army brat story. So you guys are like cracking us up. And then Sky had an additional question. How many of these story ideas do you think through before writing and why? Do you do all the books in the series, the first two, the first 11? Hmm.
uh before writing.
It depends.
Okay, that's really gonna depend.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to say. There's some where, like I said at the beginning of this, I get my first ideas and then I start writing and everything branches off from there. And then there's some where I get an idea for one series, or I wrote a novel, and from the novel I had these places and things, and from there I just started making series. And they're kind of like, and even in that, some of them have changed a little bit once I actually started writing them. I thought it was going to be one thing, and it's like, ooh, this is actually going to be something different. So I would just start pairing people up. See, now this is going to make people think, oh no, see, you're right, I have to have tons of things. Depends on the story. For this particular series in Codename Penny, I just happen to have a lot because it was all just, I was having fun with it. So yes, I have all of the series planned out. I've got four. A couple of them only have three, but four to six for most of them, story ideas. And these are ideas. And of these, maybe two in each one of these is already written, whether it's a mountain resort, um to like a beach community, to a cafe series. um the characters, I have them picked out. I don't know all about their personalities, and I don't know all about their personalities until I start writing the series that they appear in. And so some it's
I know
I
it's
mean,
hard
a
to
lot.
answer.
So for some things, I have a lot just because ideas start flowing, and you don't want
Mhm.
to lose any of those ideas. So I'm like, oh, this couple would be good in a beachy series, or this couple would be good in a vacation series, or you know what I mean. And I'm like, oh, and this person is also this person's brother. But the brother, like I said, with my brother who's a rancher, the other brothers are in different series, but their story flows. Whether I will keep them in their series, but I also might compile the brothers books, kind of like what I'm doing with the Bennett brothers, where eventually they'll just be one small, book about the Bennett brothers and their best friend, because he's an honorary Bennett brother. So
I am going to answer this in two ways. Because I think it depends on what you mean when you said story ideas. Are you talking about fully fleshed out, like we know um the main characters, like what the plot of the story is, what everything's going to happen, how things are going to play out? If that's the answer, probably one. Before I start writing. And that would be the first one that I'm going to write.
yeah,
If you were talking about like just knowing, as Nia just said, Bennett brothers, like if you're talking about just knowing the brothers, each brother gets a story in the series, and maybe all of their names and all of the names of the significant others that they are going to write, then mostly yes, I would say the whole series that I'm going to write, whether it's 3 books or 4 books. um and I do that more because I know that I write in series, and I like my series to be interconnected. So I will sometimes, like, if I know one of the brothers lost the love of his life and he's given up on romance, like, then I know in book 1 when he shows up, I can kind of point that in, like drop little Easter eggs or tidbits of that. If I know maybe one brother is military and he's going to come back later on in the story, okay, then I can drop in book 1, these people are, like they're all like, well, when is he coming home? Has anybody heard from him? Type of a something. If I know some person is like the friend next door or something like that, then I can bring her into the series, even though I know she doesn't get with like one of the brothers until maybe book 4. So things like that I may know, but as far as like fully flushed out, I know every single thing that's going to happen in each story. Probably mostly not. I may
hmm
have some, and here's why, because I've done that before, and then I get to book 2 or book 3, and because I've lived in these characters and like written these characters and seen them, I get there and that book's totally different.
yep.
So yeah, I don't, mm-mm, I don't know a lot. And I love she like you just did for pantsing, but like outline maybe for plotters. Well, you guys know I don't. Me and outlines have struggles. Um, so Esther did answer it though. She says I plot the book in the series closest to getting written, and that might be the close. Yeah, like I would
hmm
say when I'm close to the end of book 1, I am starting to think of what's like the full on story for book 2.
Yeah.
But
I find, unfortunately, sometimes I'm writing book 1, and then the best friend or side character starts popping out, and I just like, "Ertz, we're coming over here now." Very frustrating, but also yay. But I need to finish that first one.
I if you guys have read the sailing series, the summer series, I was in the middle of writing book 2, and book 4 popped in my head. And I was like, well, let me write what I have so that I don't lose it. And I think I was halfway through book 4 when I had to go back and finish book 2 because it was on deadline. And then I went back and wrote book 3 and then came back to book 4. yeah, sometimes those things happen. Um, all right, let's see. I'm going to go through the rest of the comments really fast, and then we are going to let you guys go. Esther likes the idea of Christmas in the Caribbean. Uh, Sky is like, oh, I just push the existing romances in July, maybe, and add the new one for November or on pre-order. Very possible too. Mama Maggie came in and said hello. And then was like, I love Christmas and every month, all the food. Which, I mean, if we're talking food, yeah, absolutely. Someday I want Christmas in Australia because Christmas at the beach, which does sound like a great idea. And Mama Maggie also said I have to keep detailed lists of names because I can't remember my own name sometimes, which does absolutely happen. Esther did answer Renee's question, and she said to Renee's question, I think in terms of counties, because that way I have a couple of towns, so or countries. Is that countries or counties? That's countries, right? Is that
This is
counties?
counties.
Okay, I was right the first time. Sometimes words play in my head, y'all. And JC said, ooh, the generator just gave me some names I could use for my adjacent towns. I'm going to have so much fun with this site. I'm glad that I could help and support each and every one of you. Mama Maggie also said, SCM 101 side character male 101 basic unimportant can die, or female side character 102 side character female number 2 don't kill. Which sometimes that it look,
That's what.
I will not lie to you, there are times it's like female male character, female or male character, side character. This they'll get a name later. As well, she said in the Pagoda Cliff series, the town is where everyone overlaps, but there is a baking show called Bake Wars where the baker chef characters from Devoted Sisters overlaps with Pagoda Cliffs. So that's another way that you can do that. And to Esther, it allows me to keep writing without stopping, go down names or research rabbit holes. I do try to keep a listing of names. As well as I do have a couple of baby name books and some websites that I have bookmarked for when I get into, like, I'm in the middle of writing and side character 2 pops up and she does need a name. And so that has saved my tushy a number of books.
Same. I have to have it all written down. I have some single parents that I'm gonna be giving their own, they're gonna have their own stories, and it's funny because I mixed up one of the parents who was deceased, and I was like, what? And as I was writing the plot, I was like, what is not right about, and I'm like, I chose the wrong dad. These people's dad is no longer alive. I meant to choose it because I was like, not right. I'm like, they meet because of the wedding, and he's being a real prick about it, and I'm like, something's not right. The wrong guy. It's the wrong guy. So yeah, I was like, why does this not jive with his story? What? Yeah, so I have to keep them written down, and I have to check periodically as I'm writing to make sure I'm still writing the right character. So like somehow I switched and started writing the wrong dad, and I'm like,
I'm just gonna say Kendrick with a K and Kendrick with a C. If you know, you know. That's all I can say. Esther said, like most of the fake dating books online, I say most because I did a switcheroo that landed me in books that are not outlined. And rough plot event in the I rough plot events in the series and even write scenes for later books. Also, I interview my characters so I know what they are like internally and externally. I don't know if this is like Renee. I mean, I hope it's working great for you. There's times I question. She said my writing brain sounds a lot like Tiffany's. So yes, Mom Maggie also said I wrote the death scene for a specific character while writing the book 6 or books, 6 books before it happened. See, I can't write a story without the names figured out. Yeah, I can. Been there, done that quite often. I do have a master name database to pull from, but most will get
Mhm.
a placeholder while I draft. I can't be bothered. Yeah, that happens. Okay. This guy's like, that sounds like something Tiffany would do in a hot minute. She's always renaming folks, which is very true. I rename people in real life. Um, okay, so Renee had a question. How do you interconnect characters throughout series? Which I then asked her to clarify a little bit, and she said, like, how do you sprinkle them in? Um,
It's a little I find it a little bit harder if you're writing shorts because you have so little time
mhm,
to try and get to know other people. But if you have a character who's a lot of times small towns, so they're coming in from another town, they're coming in from one of your other towns. They might have a friend or coworker who is in that town. If you are thinking that you might want to use them, make them the best friend or make that person the coworker or the boss who's
mhm,
calling to check in. Hey, did you get your this assignment's missing? Or that nosy boss that's like, how's your vacation going? And you're like, you're my boss, I'm not telling you. You know, whoever it is, just have that kind of conversation. Have them quickly, it's going to be short, but have them have a conversation that is also revealing something about your character, because you have a little bit of time to get to know the character in your short story. If you have a novel, you've got way more time. You can write
mhm.
whole random interactions with a person in a novel just to see how she interacts with her boss or with her coworker. But when you're doing a short, you've got to make these interactions quick, but you want to maybe make them quick but interesting enough that maybe your readers are going to be curious about that person. That's why siblings and best friends are really good ones to do that with.
Yeah, family for sure. Friend groups
Friend
always
group.
easiest.
Mhm.
Because how I mean, like we talk to our best friends what every other day, every day, stuff like that. Same with if you're really close to your siblings. Maybe you talk to them quite often, or a cousin or something like that. Uh, I love a good family dinner, family breakfast, family brunch,
Mhm.
because Sunday afternoon supper at mom's, something like that. It's a great way to introduce a bunch of people in a quick scene.
Yep.
If you're doing something similar, if you are on a ranch, again, maybe everybody's working that morning or something like that. You're bringing in all the different people. So if you're having an event, a party, great way to introduce a whole bunch of people. You can introduce people without even actually having them say anything. um, you can just be like, oh, Jim's over there in the corner, and Sally was over there, minding her own business like she always does, and this person's over there spiking the tea, or whatever. And like you got the names in there, so it's a great way to mention them. Stopping for breakfast, I love a good diner stop where somebody's picking up, say, like coffee, and again, you have 18 people in the coffee shop that maybe this person knows like 10 of them and is waving hello or something like that to them. That's a great way. Book club, if you're doing something where you have like a librarian, but eventually like you want to know the people in the town, book club, great way to introduce a whole bunch of people. Because you can just have like she's talking about the people in the book club sitting there off to the side. um like all the different, like, think of different ways. If you're at a school, oh my god, a class, like if your kids or your characters in school, like a class, dude, how many of us went to university and like you have a class where there's like 600 folks in it? So that's a great way to introduce people. Think of different events, different places where you can bring in groupings of folks, but also think of who's important. Because
Yeah.
if you know you're going to write about the best friend, obviously the best friend is not going to be the person in the corner or spiking the tea. The best friend's probably the person right next to them,
Yeah.
or that's the person they're like coming in to see. If you're going to write about the sibling group, then you want to get like gives like tidbits of each of the sibling in that
And
moment.
I really quick, I misunderstood the question a little bit just because I didn't catch the first part before I got to the second part. So I was thinking interconnecting the series like the different places, like if you have a town here and a town there, because obviously those people aren't going to be right there in the story. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
so. But yeah, but yes, everything that Tiffany is saying
Yeah.
for the people that are in the town, they're just going to run into people. Your
Yeah.
best friends will be there. Loving that.
So always think I've introduced. Okay, so in the Peach Ridge series, in the freebie, the guy is visiting. He's staying at the hotel. So the girl goes to visit him at the hotel, and the woman who works at the hotel is like best friends with her mom from high school. I introduced her as best friends because her son becomes the main person for the next story. That was like another excerpt that I did for something else. So like you could do certain things like that that then bring everybody together, type of a thing. She has like literally maybe one line, and then she stares at the girl while she's like, how's your mama doing?
Mhm.
I haven't talked to her since last week. And then by the time she gets back home, her mom's like, so heard you was visiting somebody at the hotel. So, you know, like you could do certain things like that. A town gossip is great because they can tell everybody's business and you have introduced everyone in the town.
Mhm.
So yeah, look at things like that. Those are great ways to kind of sprinkle them in, but make sure that you know who your important people are because they are going to get a little bit more screen time, especially as Nia said in a short. It's so limited, so that screen time is important. Like if you're getting screen time, it's because I'm going to use you somewhere else,
Mhm.
or you are needed to drive this story home. It's one of those two things. So make
Yeah.
sure you know who those people are that are vital to the series. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna run
and
to
have fun with those people that are never going to get a story, but they're in the town all the time.
mm-hmm.
We love those people. I've got Ned and Sally. Ned's the mailman, Sally's his wife. So every now and again you'll get a little bit of a real quick drive by Ned and Sally sighting. And then I've got my two busybodies. They're at the beginning of every story if I can make it work. Where they're kind of like the people who's gonna your first sight of either the main character or the male main character is them meeting them as they walk through the park because these two ladies, they're busybodies. They sit in the town center and they people watch. And they get ideas about they'd make a cute couple. So I've got these people that you're going to see all the time, um, but
Yeah,
they're not necessarily going to get their own story.
Ned will get his own story about
It,
him.
Ned's already with
Convinced
Sally.
Ned
We're
gets
good.
uh, so yeah, definitely don't forget the side people that are always there because they're the people who ground your town. Like
Hmm.
they're the people who center your town. You know, they're the person who is always at the coffee shop. They are the person who is the librarian. They are the person who you know, is the town busybody or the person who is the cop that thinks that he's, you know, the guy from CSI, right? Like they're whoever they are. They're your backbone of your town. So you definitely don't want to forget them because they're like the important. There's the mom who's always trying to fix her child up with everybody in town and everybody who comes to visit. Like something. They're the people who everybody's expecting or enjoys seeing in all of your different books, even if they only have like a one line or something like that or a reference. Esther said mostly I attach them to a business, which is always a good idea as well. As well as I may introduce the family in general, and then when I bring a specific character, readers can make the connection when they hear the last name. Not me talking to my best friend once every 3 months. I mean, that happens too. I got those friends too. So I actually just yesterday was like, oh, I need to call her her. I haven't talked to her in like forever. So yes. For non-family friend interactions, I have so many bakers, confectioners, and chefs that it is easy for them to run into each other's, because everyone will visit a bakery or a candy shop or a restaurant. Yes,
Yep.
like businesses that people run into is always great. uh Not spiking the tea. I mean, y'all know the person, the little mischief maker. uh for non-chef baker characters, everyone watches cooking contest shows, so Bake Wars is a good vehicle to crossover between series. That's really good, especially if you have, like, say, like a band or a singer or an actor or a author or something that can cross across the series. Des Lorre has 16 Times Country. That is our band, and like people on all the series, they listen to their music. So that's always great as well. And Esther's like, Sally is always in the corner minding her business.
Mhm.
The sister was the erotic dancer who entertained the guys visiting Vegas for a bachelor party, while also being the one who was secretly a call girl who was paid to cheat with the other sisters. What is happening over here? The gossip vine is the most hated part of the town, but everyone listens even if they don't spread the seeds. Also, if you've not checked out Mama Maggie's books, like, she giving you a little like insight right there. And Esther's like, not Sally, ending with a ending with a Ned.
Oh,
Esther, or Sky's like,
oh,
Maggie.
I'm sorry to put Sally.
And JC's like, oh Lord, not Ned. Ned is coming. Okay, he is
Oh,
coming to the
I
city.
just made the connection, Esther. Sally.
I have a younger couple, Vic, a young deputy, and Vienna, an EMT. They have been a couple since elementary school. He loves her, but when she gets pregnant, he always whines about how mean she gets. So yeah, like, you have those type of things. Some characters are meant to just be NPCs. Absolutely, you need them. And if you don't know, NPC is a non-player character
Yep.
from video games, and NPCs are very important. They are what keeps the game, the town, everything grounded.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Otherwise, the town's empty. So
yeah.
yeah, you need those
Tiffany
people to
is
live there.
excellent at creating side characters you fall in love with. Not sure if she means for that to happen, but it does. Thank you very much for the compliment. Sometimes I want there to be characters that you can't stand that are side characters. And those are fun too. Those are almost even more
Mhm.
fun. And then you have NPCs are sometimes the most fun to write. They really are. That's like that's like playing Sims without Alex Moyer or the Grimm. Esther laughed to that. Sky is like, Des Lorraine has Siren Coffee and Everything Pizza. It's not quite the name of the pizza place, but there is Everything in the Kitchen Sink pizza that everybody orders in a specific series. So yes, she laughs. We're not talking about Carmen, Sky. We're just not going to do that. I know how you feel. We're not going to do it. And JC's like, ooh, you have those two. I can think of one in particular. So yes. All right, guys, we have gone over a little bit, but we are going to let you go. Nia, do you have anything coming up that you would like to let everybody know about?
Um, we have coming up this month scripting the book. If you guys want to check that out, we're going to be doing Pet Cemetery. Laura Nettles is going to be our guest. I'm going to try and get through this one. Normally, I'm very excited. I'm just like, no, yeah. So it's going to be very interesting. So come check it out. That'll be on my channel on the 20th. She's raising a hand.
I would like to nominate a book movie because I believe this is a book. I may have to go look it up, but I would like to nominate something for next Halloween.
Oh, what is it? Yes.
Warm Bodies.
How horrifying is this?
It isn't. It is.
Okay.
It's almost like more of a well, the movie is almost a comedy, but I am gonna go check because I do believe that it is a book as well. And it is one of my favorite movies to watch during the holiday season. Yes, it is a novel.
It's a novel? Okay. I will
Apparently it's a
definitely
series.
find
I
it.
didn't know it was a series.
Oh, all
Because
right.
it says Warm Bodies Series Book 1. So maybe it is. But yes, I would like to nominate.
Okay.
And then
This
I
is
would like to be there.
all right. All right. Awesome.
It
Awesome.
is, yeah. Esther nailed it right on the head. It is a zombie rom-com.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This sounds
And
excellent.
it is supposed to be a remake of Romeo and Juliet, but set in
Oh,
zombies.
all right. I will let the crew know. We will schedule you in.
Uh, so yes, I don't know if I like the movie. I don't know if the book's any good. Never read it, but
That's what we find out on scripting the book.
and Mama Maggie said I haven't read Pet Cemetery since I was 25. And so yes, I would like to nominate that. I have a release coming out. It is not small town, but it is football. So if you, well, technically it's small town adjacent because they all live pretty around Cherry Springs. I just haven't dipped into Cherry Springs yet. So if you guys would like to check that out, it does come out on Tuesday. It is available for pre-order right now, so you can go ahead and pick that up. And there's already 2 other books in the series, Heath and Wiles, and Boone is the one that's coming out on Tuesday. I almost said Thursday, but it's Tuesday. I am going to try the ending video and let's see if that plays. And we will be back next month. We don't know what we're talking about, so stay tuned. Again, if you guys have any comments, any suggestions, in the comments or reach out to either one of us. And until then, bye everybody.